talking with Eric and Ernie Bin. Met Eric probably, how long have you been with Clio?
2.5 years. I think I probably met you almost 2.5 years ago.
And you do what at Clio?
I'm the director of product at Clio. So myself and my team, we focus on the product strategy, what we're going to build.
And Ernie, how long have you been with Clio?
I've been with Clio since last January after Eric recruited me to help design the new Clio experience. So since I've been there, I lead a team very similar in size to Eric, but we once we take that product strategy that his team has figured out, we figure out how to execute, how to make sure that customers are getting the amazing experience that they expect and look for effortless experience.
Now, I got the good fortune to come up with Clio a couple of weeks ago, and live the design experience with you, even to the point where you're showing how you hire using design. Yep. I went and took some of the things you said, like, okay, look at that door over there. This is why this is that way and how people are going to use that door. When did you start working with the concept of design in an abstract way?
Well, it's I've been working professionally for 17 years
right.
and doing design for companies like Nike, Lululemon, and Starbucks. But the book that we talked about, which is the Design of Everyday Things by
right.
Don Norman, that was the book that kind of revealed the fact that we actually deal in design thinking all the time, right? Like every time somebody uses a tea kettle or uses a doorknob, sometimes they'll complain about these things and say, oh, this is so hard to use. And so the discipline of design and learning to design is really about learning to understand these cues much better and apply like professional kind of discipline to it. But I like to think that there's some amount of designer in everyone, but becoming a professional designer and doing it every day is just about elevating the craft and making sure that there's rigor and discipline, and that's what we try to apply and have tried to apply to the new Clio experience.
So how does design interface with products in your team?
It's really a partnership. I would say we have 3 departments. There's product management, product design, and product development. And my team focuses on deciding what and why we're going to build it. His team figures out how to solve for that problem, and the development team actually goes and builds it. But it's a partnership. We each own our area, but it doesn't mean that ideas don't come from one team or the other. It's shared. And at the end of the day, product managers decide what's going to happen, but it's really important that we collaborate rather than dictate. You're not going to get motivated people if you dictate.
One really important part of that process and the collaboration is the fact that product managers define the problem, define successful outcomes. Like what does success look like for the customer at the end of the day? But design, as they're iterating through that, will be creating prototypes, we'll be creating tests and doing additional interviews with customers to make sure we're on the right path. But we also bring it back to the product managers to make sure, product managers are incredibly close to the problem. Designers and product managers live in that problem, but we need partners. Like design doesn't happen at its best when you're alone. You don't want to do something alone. You want to make sure that you bring perspective to the table. So bringing a product manager back in and say, so here's what I understood about what you've defined, and let's go through this and see if it solves a problem. And so that back and forth and that refinement is really what gets us to a place where we have something really special.
Go ahead.
I think a big part of it in terms of how we collaborate is that we focus on the customer. The conference, it shouldn't be a designer saying, oh, I think it should be this way. And when you ask them, like, okay, well, why? And they say, well, I like it that way. The answer should be, well, we've spoken to some customers and this is what they're looking for. Same with the product manager. They can't say, we're going to build this and be a dictator and so forth. You actually have to be able to say, here's the customers I've met with, here's the data we've collected, here's the law firms I've been in, and we've watched how they work, and this is why we should do it.
We actually did training last year. We've kind of rebuilt the product management function and the design teams. There are a lot of kind of new people working together. And the thing we started training around was how to give useful design feedback. And one of the things we learned was, you don't express an opinion where you say, I don't like this, or I like that. You have to focus on how this actually helps the user. So you may say, I don't think this solves a problem the right way. I don't think this is discoverable enough. A customer's not going to notice that the button is available there. But if you're not talking in the voice of how does a customer experience this, and you're talking about, I don't like it. I think it's the wrong color. I don't care what you think. Go find out what you think the customer is going to bring. Data, bring research. We use a lot of third-party research to understand other designers. What are they doing and what are they learning with their redesigns? And we take that knowledge and try to roll it into what we do as well.
Had you guys ever worked together before? Clio?
Yeah, we did. I worked at the same agency that Ernie did. I was a project manager. He was creative director there. I was only there for 7 months and only had one project that we crossed over on. And even now, today, we don't really work together day to day.
Right.
My team works with his team works with my team, and we're just unblocking and like saying, hey, here's a problem. We need to work through that.
No, but I mean, I guess first time I met Ernie was up at Clio a couple weeks ago, and then you guys are sharing in advance, what you did in Apollo. It was really interesting, the give and take going back and forth between you guys doing the presentation, because it was great. So I mean, I've got to believe that even though you're not sitting there working side by side each day, that you're building a nice collaboration between products and design and development. So that'd be kind of cool.
One story I would share is that when Eric came to work at the agency I worked at, I had been there for years, and so Eric came in, and when we were the hiring team asked me, it's like, hey, what do you think about hiring your brother? And I said, I think he'd be great as long as we don't work together. And they thought that was weird, but I thought, I didn't want our dynamic as being siblings to interfere with the work we do. So I actually made a point that I didn't want to work together with him on the same project. But resourcing the way it is, we got put on the same project. And actually what I learned is that we actually work together really well. We think differently. We obviously have very different focuses. Like a lot of people who know us personally will talk about the fact that we're pretty different people. But what we learned is that we actually work together really well. And I think what really benefited was the fact that right from the get-go when I started, because we had a relationship with trust, we were able to give each other pretty blunt feedback, and for that not to hurt. We were able to kind of talk to each other about what do we need to do to be successful? What do we need, and not for us, but like what do we need to be successful to launch a new Clio? And we're able to share really frank feedback with each other and not take it personally and get the job done. So I think it was a real learning for me, from going from like I don't want to work with them to like I'm actually really effective working with them.
So you feel that way too?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is we've both been in technology for this whole century. Like we both started around 2000, the 17 years in this field, and I've come from it more from the product side. He's coming from it more from the developer and design side. And so we've, for 17 years, been talking about these topics from those two perspectives all the time. You get together for dinner and you talk about it, but we don't talk about work per se. Right. We talk about our philosophy and why we think this, and so we get the different viewpoints. And therefore, when I'm in a meeting with his team or he's in a meeting with my team, we can represent each other because we understand the underlying philosophy. So we don't have to be dogmatic about like, oh, we don't like this thing. We're going to be saying, well, this general thing doesn't really align with what we want to do. So it makes it easier to get going.
You guys represent what is really the best of Clio. And as Clio evolves as a company, and I've known Jack since before you put up a site. It was the people, the values, the personality, the empathy of people, the people's ability to communicate without really thinking, just being themselves. It's very interesting. Now you guys played a big part in launching Apollo, where you basically redo a technology platform rather than try to. I call it sometimes for the team. Somebody told me an engineer years ago, you can shine a turd, shine a turd, shine a turd. It's still a turd. So we did the same thing. We had to just say, we're going to leave that behind. The good developers are going over here. They're going to work on the new platform, and they'll be ready in a year. Type of thing. I mean, you did something even more extraordinary because you got 150,000 customers in I don't know how many countries.
I think 90 or
90
so
countries. 150,000, 90 countries. You develop a whole new platform on which they're going to take the most trusted information that they have, their clients' information, and put it on your platform. How does it feel coming here, and watching it get announced, and watching people talk about it, and you get in front of a room and you're explaining it? What's it feel like?
I think there's equal parts relief and joy. Relief that we actually hit our deadline, because the deadline was a hyper ambitious thing that we were shooting for. The joy part is seeing customers come into like the Clio Labs room asking for demos, and then they say, well, normally I have a list of things I want, but you've actually taken care of it all. So that's awesome to see that and be able to share that with the team.
How many different changes? What was it, like 150 or so? I forget how many
220 product improvements.
220 product.
And some of them are hyper detailed, like, hey, we're going to make this link easier to read, to like really big chunky things of like, here's how you apply funds to a bill.
The things that got applause in the room. Those are some of the big ones.
Yeah.
Were they the things that you thought were going to get applause?
For the most part, yeah. And that comes from that research, right? We've
Yeah.
heard our customer pain, you know, and so kind of back to your first question about how I feel incredibly proud of the team. You know, I think that while we're standing here getting interviewed, I think what I'm most proud of is the team that we've built. They're just incredible people. I'm so proud of my team. They've worked so hard. They've worked incredibly hard. And Jack showed some pictures of them working at night, but this team has worked their butts off for months to make this day or this event happen. And it's emotional. Like, I'm just like the pride I have in that team I've built and the work they've done. I could not be prouder. It's them, you know. Like, I may have hired them, but it was them. You know, I'm privileged to have found the team that I have.
You guys keep adding. I mean, I've got the head of engineering that's been there for 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. So when I joined 2.5 years ago, Clio was about 120 people. The product team that we're a part of was about 40, and today that team's about 80, and Clio's about 240 people. So in 2.5 years, I've gone from the new guy to the older half of the company.
What's the best part of working at Clio?
This stuff. I have to say two things. One is the people. You know, I'm thrilled to come into work every day and work with this team and these people I work with. And the other is, you know, I chose to come to Clio because I knew that I'd have an opportunity to really change the lives of our users.
Right.
You know, when I worked at Microsoft, I didn't feel that way. I actually didn't feel that the work I was doing was meaningful and significant. So when Eric spent months actually convincing me to come work at Clio, and in that time, a lot of it just came down to impact. You know, what's the impact you're going to have on the world? And I feel that with Clio, I can actually have impact on the world.
Yeah, for me, it's about being able to do something really meaningful. Helping the legal services are expensive by nature, and it's because of things like lawyers have to do all this excess work, all the part of their day that's not useful. They have to charge more. Our parents are working class people; they can't afford a lawyer, and so I'm doing work that will make legal services more accessible, help lawyers be happier, and someone like my mom and dad can get a will from a professional. I think that's a big deal.
Hey, thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Cool.